Hi everyone, welcome to the Callie Kim Garden. I'm so glad that you're here with me today, and I am very excited about today's video because I am going to show you how to supercharge your tomatoes that you're growing in containers so they grow fast and furious and you have lots of tomatoes to harvest this spring and summer. And we're going to hear from an expert plant horticulturist at the end of the video who is also going to give us some special insights about how to supercharge your tomato plants too. The first secret to supercharging your tomatoes in containers is to choose the right size of container. Now, a tomato is a very large plant, and a lot of people think you can't grow them in containers, but you can as long as you plant them in the right size. So because of its extensive root system, you would not want to grow a full-size tomato plant in a 5-gallon container or a 1-gallon container. You could say those for the dwarf varieties or the mini varieties. For a full-size indeterminate tomato plant, you want at least a 10 or a 20-gallon container. That way the root system has plenty of room to spread out, take up the nutrients and grow. Now, I prefer growing in fabric containers. These are Smart Pots. I've grown in them for years, and there's one big reason why it really supercharges your tomatoes, and that is the roots don't circle around and get root bound like they do in a hard-sided container. Because the roots can breathe through the aerated fabric, they're able to uptake the water and the nutrients, which really supercharges their growth. You have a lot more roots in a fabric Smart Pot, and more roots means more tomatoes. Tomato supercharge number 2 is supercharge your soil. Don't use regular garden soil for your containers. It's just too compact and heavy. It gets bogged down in your containers and doesn't allow your plants to breathe. You need a nice, light, fluffy soil full of good nutrients. Now, in the last video, I showed you how to make your own organic potting mix. So you can save a ton of money on potting soil, and that's exactly what we have in here. We've got compost, coco coir, and vermiculite, and this is really going to supercharge our tomatoes. However, I do have a couple of special ingredients that are going to supercharge my soil even more. First ingredient I'm going to add are Vermistera worm castings. Earthworm castings contain multivitamins, micro and macronutrients, trace minerals and elements, and they do also contain hundreds of thousands of probiotics, which is good bacteria and fungi that make food and protect the plant from disease. And you can tell how this is going to supercharge my tomatoes even more. The next ingredient I'm going to add to really supercharge my soil is an organic granular fertilizer with a balanced NPK. NPK stands for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So you want to look for an organic fertilizer that has about an equal amount of all three, and you can see that from the numbers on the back of the fertilizer bag. Worm castings and organic granular fertilizer are time-release fertilizers, so they will continue to feed your tomatoes over the next couple of months, really supercharging their growth. Number 3 way to supercharge your tomato containers is to plant them deeply. Tomatoes have little teeny tiny hairs along the stem, and wherever those hairs touch the soil, they grow roots. So the more roots that the tomato plant is able to send out from the stem, the stronger, sturdier your plant will be, and the more roots it will have. And remember what I told you, the more roots, the more fruit it will grow. And you can see here on this tomato, along the bottom of the stem, it's already sending out some teeny tiny little roots, which means this guy is going to be a very sturdy plant. We're going to dig a hole about as deep as the plant is tall. And this is the Aunt Ruby German green tomato plant from my tomato seed collection. I have it growing here in a 4-inch cow pot. And the cool thing about these cow pots is they biodegrade in the soil. It makes it really easy to plant, just pot and all. So I'm putting it down here deep into the Smart Pot. Then I'm going to backfill it with soil, covering up the stem as I go, leaving a few inches of the tomato plant sticking out, because remember, these tiny little hairs here are going to develop lateral roots and make my tomato plant very, very strong. Number 4 is consistent watering and feeding, especially at the time of planting. Now, the mistake a lot of people make with their container tomatoes is they water and feed them at the beginning, and then they let their plants dry out, don't feed them again until later on in the season, and this is something you do not want to do. When your container tomato plants dry out, they get stressed, they get stunted, and they just sometimes don't recover. So we're going to supercharge them from the very get-go by giving them a good watering, and I'm going to add some of my special ingredients to the watering can. This is Vermistera Vitality. This is worm castings in liquid form. And it's highly concentrated, so you don't need a lot in your watering can. And what that does is continue to put those probiotics down around the roots of your plants, which really help protect it from disease. And then I'm going to add some fish fertilizer, which is high in nitrogen. And these liquid fertilizers are water soluble, which means the plant can immediately uptake them. And I'm going to give them a nice little drench here with my plant cocktail. Water around the base of the plant until you see water run out the bottom. And you want to continue feeding your plants about every 2 weeks because the water drains out of your containers a lot quicker than your in-ground garden. It dries out a lot quicker, and they need feeding a lot more often. And when you do this, you'll find that it really supercharges those tomatoes. Very important that you monitor your containers regularly to see if they need watered. And doing this is very easy. Use your finger as a moisture meter and just stick it into your container up to the second knuckle. If it feels moist, it doesn't need watered. But if you pull out a little bit of soil and it's dry, it means it's time to water your containers. Number 5 way to supercharge your tomatoes is to protect your plants. And here's our special expert guest to share with us a little bit more about that.
Hi, my name is Clayton Smith, and I'm the horticulturalist key account manager with Monterey Lawn and Garden Products. And I'm here with Callie Kim, going over her garden and talking about some of our wonderful products that we have on the market for you. And one of our favorite products is Complete Disease Control. Now, I've been with the company for over 10 years now, and every year we come out with something brand new, and this was one we brought out a couple years ago. And this is an organic product. It collinates around the roots and protects the roots against future root rots. Now, as a leaf disease, it'll get rid of some of the soft leaf diseases like powdery mildew and downy mildew.
Clayton spent the day with me here in the Callie Kim garden, and it was so much fun. We walked around from plant to plant. He told me what all the problems were in my garden and how to fix them. When he shared with me about Complete Disease Control, I knew I had to start using this in my garden because I've had disease problems with my tomatoes as well. We're partnering with Monterey Lawn and Garden, Complete Disease Control. It has a naturally occurring good bacteria strain, which controls and prevents fungal and bacterial diseases, which tomatoes are notorious for. It colonizes the plant root hairs, preventing the disease from becoming established. I drench it with 1 teaspoon of Complete Disease Control in water. Then do not water the plant for 24 hours after the application to give the product time to settle in around the root hairs of the plants. Number 6, supercharge your tomato containers with strong support. Now, most people make the mistake of using inadequate support for your full-size tomato plants in containers. And this tomato plant is going to get to be about 8 to 10 feet tall. So if you don't provide it with strong support, it's just going to flop over and it won't be a healthy plant and it won't grow a lot of tomatoes for you. So what I have here is a nice sturdy tomato cage from the garden center, but we're going to supercharge it by adding another level to this cage. I have a second cage here with the bottom legs cut off, which I'm going to invert and put on the top of my first tomato cage. Going to attach it with cable ties. This makes a super strong, sturdy support for my tomatoes. I really like using the inverted tomato cage method to support my tomatoes because it's quick, easy to install, very affordable, keeps your tomatoes up off the ground, giving it better airflow, which also helps protect it from disease. And you really need to install your tomato support at the time of planting, because once your tomato plant grows and gets bigger, it's a whole lot more difficult to install your support at that point, and that way it's supported from the start and gets supercharged from the get-go. Make sure to watch this video for how to make your own container potting mix. Looking forward to reading your comments. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time in the garden.